to today's presentation. Welcome to today's presentation on surviving documentation. Today we're going to talk about the reasons why you need to document in your writing here at Ivy Tech, and especially in courses that have academic or research papers. So the first question we're going to answer in this series of presentations is, why do you need to do it? Why do you need to use APA or MLA formatting for your research papers? It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and you have to learn something new that sometimes can be a little difficult to understand. So the question is, why do I need to document? Why do I need to do all of this documentation stuff? Well, the core reason is this. Words and ideas belong to people. They are property. They are property like paintings are property, like if someone writes a play, it's their property. If someone creates their own piece of art, it's their property. Anything people create is their own property, including and up to things like television sets. If you take someone's ideas or you take somebody's words that they have created, it's just like stealing this television set. And in the academic world, it's just as serious as stealing a television set. Now, I know you're not like that, and you're not going to do that. And that's the reason why you're watching this presentation. But we did need to cover why it's such a big deal. Words, ideas, thoughts, structure, all of those things somebody took the time and the effort to create. And anything that somebody created is their property. And if it's their property, then they get to control how it's used. Now, I want you to understand that this is so important that even on this first slide here, I documented where I got this image off the internet from freedigitalphotos.net, and I agreed to put this credit in here when I used this photo, because this photo was created by somebody else and it's their property. So I didn't want to steal the picture of the television. So we've already established that thoughts and ideas, words, are somebody else's property, and neither you nor I want to take somebody's stuff without their permission. So why do you need to document? You need to document to show that you are taking their property in the correct way, that you are borrowing their property. You can borrow words, sentences, and ideas for your papers as long as you let the reader know who their owners are. That's what's called fair use. And in the academic world, people let other people borrow their property all the time. You can borrow it, but you can't take it. Now, how do we differentiate between borrowing and taking? Well, it's important to think of borrowing kind of like borrowing a library book. With library books, you get to use the book, you get to read it, you don't have to pay for it, but there are rules. There are rules what you can do with it. You can't trash it or burn it or anything like that. You can't tear pages out, and you have to return it within a certain amount of time. Well, with ideas and words and sentences and phrases and creations, a lot of times there's no physical thing to give back. So how do you make sure that the owner continues to get the benefit of their creation? And the way that we do that is through documentation. How do you let people know that you're borrowing? Do two things. Do something called citations and something called references. Now, citations are the things that you put in the actual body of your paper when you're writing. When you're writing your paragraphs, you actually put citations in your paragraphs to show where you use somebody else's ideas or words, sentences, or creation of any sort. Let me give you an example of a well-cited paragraph. This is a paragraph from a paper on the importance of being first, unique characteristics of first-generation community college students from the Community College Review. This is a quotation, so I have quotation marks in the beginning. One of the most important challenges for community colleges is to meet the needs of a very diverse community of people, including traditional and non-traditional students. Now, when the writers of this paragraph wrote this sentence, they used somebody else's article. That person was Ross, and they wrote it in 1990. This is called a citation. This lets me know that this sentence was based on somebody else's research and ideas and creation. So they put it into their own words, but they used somebody else's idea and creation. Now, as you take a look through here, you'll notice that almost every sentence, if not every sentence, sometimes multiple within sentences, has a citation, which means that in a research paper, you do a lot of citations because you're using a lot of other people's works to build your paper and to build your idea. It's called a research paper, not an opinion paper, not an innovation paper, but something where you're going and doing a ton of research, building that in, so you should see lots of citations. The next piece is this idea of references. And references go at the end of the paper in a list of sources or a reference page, which shows all the sources that you used, that you created citations for as you were writing. Now, the references are longer. You'll notice here that we have Mr. Cross's or Miss Cross's paper from 1990, and that it has the complete title and where it was found. You'll notice that Doherty's paper from 1994, again, or actually a book, The Contradictory College, The Conflicting Origin, Impacts, and Futures of Community College, again, Albany State University of New York Press, gives complete information so that the reader can then go find this article or find this book and create something for herself or himself that have their own original research and follow the line of reasoning and the line of research. Again, this reference ties back to this citation. Every time I see Cross 1990, I know I can go back to the reference page and find where this article is. Every time I see Doherty 1994, I can go back down to the reference page and see Doherty and the complete and know that I have the source and know that I can go find it. Now, as we take a look at this, by using citations and references, what we do is we build a path, kind of like breadcrumbs, leading us through the research that you've done so that we can know as instructors and professors that you are doing the research that you need to do and that you're giving other people credit for the work of theirs, their creation that you borrowed. So using citations and references, you can show, hey, I'm borrowing these words, I'm borrowing these ideas, I'm borrowing these sentences. As a matter of fact, if you'll take a look, you'll see that I included a reference, both a citation here, Inman and Mace, the name, the year, and the page I found this quotation, and then I included the reference down here simply so that you could see both things together, and because I used their paragraph. Even though I'm just doing a presentation on documentation and I'm not publishing this anywhere except here, I still did a reference to make sure that their work got the proper credit because I'm borrowing this paragraph. I can't take it. So the next thing we want to answer is, what do you need to document? You want to borrow correctly. When do you need to use citations as you write and references at the end of it? Anytime you use somebody's words, anytime you use their exact words, you use, they have a 12-word sentence and you use 8 of those words, anytime that you use somebody's words strung together in a quotation, you have to document it. You have to use a citation and a reference. Every time you use someone's words. Again, if you use somebody's words in the first paragraph of your paper and you document it, and then you go down 4 paragraphs and you use their words again, you have to do a citation in both the first paragraph and the 4th paragraph. Every time you use somebody else's words, you have to document. You have to put a citation in your paper where you use their words. And even if you only use 3 or 4 words, you don't have to use complete sentences. I know a lot of students will try to say, well, I cut half this sentence and half that sentence, and I put an and in the middle, so now this is my sentence. If you use somebody else's phrases, if you use somebody else's parts of sentences, and again, my rule of thumb is if you use 3 or more words, document it. Citation. Every time you use somebody's ideas, even if you only use 3 or 4 pieces of that ideas or 3 or 4 ideas from that paper, it doesn't matter how many ideas you use, even if it's only half a sentence, you still have to document that when you write your paper. Even if you put it into your own words, especially if you put it into your own words. That citation needs to be there so I know that you put it into your words, but you borrowed somebody else's ideas that you put into your words, that you based your words on. If you learn anything that you did not know before you read that paper and you use that information in what you write, you must document it. Anytime you use somebody else's creation, every time, even if you only use a piece of that creation, pictures, music, lyrics, art, plays, an interview, whatever it is, you need to cite it and reference it to create good documentation so that we know that you borrowed this, we know where to go to find what you borrowed so that we can follow your research and be able to know that this is the honest work that you have done. The key phrase is, when in doubt, document. If you put a citation in where it's not needed, that's a minor point. If you leave out a citation where it is needed and a reference where it is needed, that's a huge point because that becomes plagiarism. And it's like stealing. It is stealing. If you ask somebody twice to borrow something, it's not a big deal. If you take it without asking, that's a big deal. So when in doubt, document it. Put in a citation. Make sure you have a reference to tie that citation to so that we can make sure that you know and document that you're borrowing this information. Now, there is a session 2 in this series on how to actually construct good references and what to do those things. And so if you have a worry about, how do I create references, where do they go, how do they tie together, watch session 2 in this series. There's also a session 3 on citations. How do I construct citations? Where do they go in the paper? How do they link to the references? And so you can watch that and get more information on that. There's also more information at the online writing lab at Purdue, at owl.english.purdue.edu. And again, you don't have to put the 3 W's in there. Now, I know that you can do this. I know that you can do citations and references if you just put a little bit of effort into it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact the instructor of your course, or you can contact me at dfranklin19@ivytech.edu. I hope that you have a great day, and I look forward to talking with you in sessions 2